Picture this. You're 17 years old, strapped into your airplane seat at 10,000 feet above the Amazon rainforest, when suddenly lightning strikes your plane. The aircraft disintegrates around you, and you're falling through the sky, still buckled to your seat. Watching the jungle canopy rush toward you at terminal velocity, most people would never survive such a fall, let alone the nightmare that follows. But Juliane Koepcke did. She survived falling from the plane. Could you? Before we dive into this incredible true story of survival against impossible odds, make sure to hit that like button if you're ready to be amazed. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible videos that will leave you questioning what the human spirit is truly capable of. On Christmas Eve 1971, what should have been a simple 30-minute flight from Lima to Koepcke, Peru, became one of the most extraordinary survival stories ever documented. This is the story of how a teenage girl survived a 2-mile fall from an exploding airplane and then endured 11 days alone in the Amazon rainforest. One of the most hostile environments on Earth, Juliane Koepcke was traveling with her mother, Maria, a renowned ornithologist, to reunite with her father, Hans Wilhelm Koepcke, at their research station in the Peruvian Amazon. The family had dedicated their lives to studying the rainforest's biodiversity, so Juliane was no stranger to the jungle's dangers. However, nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. LANASE Flight 508 took off from Lima's Jorge International Airport with 92 people aboard. The Lockheed Electra turboprop was flying through increasingly severe weather when it encountered a massive thunderstorm. At approximately 10,000 feet, lightning struck the aircraft's fuel tank. The explosion was instantaneous and catastrophic. Juliane later recalled the moment with chilling clarity. I heard the motor fall down. The plane was flying through a very heavy storm and was hit by lightning. It was pitch black and people were screaming. Then the airplane fell apart. In that terrifying moment, still strapped to her seat, she was sucked out of the disintegrating aircraft and began her 2-mile plummet toward the Amazon canopy below. All what happened next defies all logic and probability. Falling at terminal velocity through dense rainforest canopy, Juliane somehow survived the impact. Several factors contributed to this miracle. She remained strapped to her seat, which may have provided some protection and helped her maintain a more stable descent. The thick jungle canopy acted as a natural buffer, breaking her fall through multiple layers of vegetation. She landed in muddy, soft ground that absorbed much of the impact. When Juliane regained consciousness the next morning, she found herself alone in the jungle floor, battered but alive. She had suffered a broken collarbone, a deep cut on her leg, and was temporarily blinded in one eye. Her mother was nowhere to be found, and the horrifying reality began to sink in. She was the sole survivor of Flight 508. The Amazon rainforest is one of Earth's most unforgiving environments. With temperatures reaching 90 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity levels near 100%, and dangers lurking behind every tree, it's a place where even experienced adventurers can quickly perish. For a 17-year-old girl with serious injuries and no survival equipment, the odds were astronomical. Juliane's first priority was finding water, and she was fortunate to discover a small stream nearby. Her father had taught her that following water downstream would eventually lead to civilization, as people typically build settlements near rivers. This knowledge became her lifeline. For the next 11 days, Juliane followed the stream, which gradually widened into a creek, then a river. The journey was excruciating. Her injuries throbbed with every step, and her broken collarbone made movement incredibly painful. The cut on her leg became infected, and she could feel maggots burrowing into the wound. She had no food except for a small bag of candy she had found at the crash site. The psychological torment was perhaps worse than the physical pain. She constantly hoped to find her mother or other survivors, calling out desperately into the jungle. The silence that greeted her cries was deafening. At night, the forest came alive with the sounds of predators, jaguars, snakes, and other creatures that could icily kill an injured teenager. As days passed, Juliane's condition deteriorated. Dehydration and infection were taking their toll. She drank river water when she could find it, knowing it might make her sick, but having no alternative. She tried eating seeds and fruits, but was afraid of poisoning herself with the wrong choice. The infected wound on her leg became her greatest concern. She could see and feel maggots moving inside it, and the smell of rotting flesh filled her nostrils. Without medical attention, she knew infection could kill her even if she managed to find her way out of the jungle. Her clothing provided little protection against the elements. She wore a short dress and had lost one shoe during the fall, leaving one foot completely exposed to the jungle floor's hazards. Thorns, insects, and sharp rocks constantly tore at her skin, adding new wounds to her growing collection of injuries. Sleep became nearly impossible. The jungle floor was cold and wet, and she had no shelter from the frequent rain showers. She would huddle against tree trunks, trying to stay warm while remaining alert for the sounds of approaching predators. Every night felt like it might be her last. On the 10th day, Juliane's persistence finally paid off. Following the river downstream, she discovered a small boat moored at a makeshift shelter. Her heart raced with the possibility of rescue, but no one was there. The shelter appeared to be a temporary camp used by local loggers or hunters. Exhausted and desperate, Juliane decided to wait. She found a small container of gasoline, and remembering something her father had told her about treating infected wounds, poured it into her leg wound. The pain was excruciating, but she managed to remove some of the maggots that had been festering there for days. That night, as she lay in the shelter, she heard the sound she had been praying for: human voices. 3 Peruvian loggers returned to their camp and found the injured teenager. They could hardly believe their eyes when they saw her. She was emaciated, covered in infected wounds, and barely conscious. But she was alive. Rescue and recovery, the loggers immediately recognized the severity of Juliane's condition. They gave her food and water and tended to her wounds as best they could. The next morning, they transported her by boat to a nearby village, where she received more comprehensive medical care before being airlifted to a hospital in Koepcke. The news of her survival made international headlines. She was the sole survivor of Flight 508. All 91 other passengers and crew members had perished in the crash. Search and rescue teams had been looking for survivors for days, but had given up hope. Juliane's miraculous survival, an 11-day trek through the Amazon, seemed impossible to many who heard the story. Medical examinations revealed the extent of her ordeal. Besides her obvious injuries, she had lost significant weight, was severely dehydrated, and had multiple infections. However, her knowledge of the jungle, learned from years of living with her researcher parents, had undoubtedly saved her life. Juliane Koepcke's story remains one of the most remarkable survival tales in modern history. Her ability to survive a 2-mile fall from an exploding airplane was miraculous enough. But her courage and determination to survive 11 days alone in the Amazon rainforest with serious injuries demonstrates the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Today, Juliane continues her parents' work as a biologist, dedicating her life to studying and protecting the very jungle that nearly claimed her life but ultimately became her salvation. Her story reminds us that sometimes, against all odds, the human will to survive can overcome even the most impossible circumstances. When faced with the unthinkable, Juliane Koepcke chose to keep moving forward, one painful step at a time, until she found her way home. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.